Hi guys, Mrs. Bowling here. Before you get started on this, I do want you to know that this is an optional video, so if you are watching this video, just know that it is not a requirement. But I am going to be talking about reading responses and how to actually go through the process of writing one. So if that's something that you're struggling with, please continue watching it because I definitely want you to get help if you feel like you need it. So I have given you copies of reading responses last week when we talked about good, bad, and ugly reading responses. You have some copies of reading responses, but I haven't actually taken you through the process that I use when I go to write a reading response, which is what I'd like to try doing with you today since you have your first reading response due on Friday. Hopefully, after Monday, when you watch the video about keeping track of your thinking while reading, you, during your independent reading time, were keeping track of your thinking using Post-its or maybe just writing some notes on a piece of paper. Either way would have been totally fine. As long as you made sure that you included the page numbers on here, you should be good to go. So today, the very first thing that I want to have out is my thinking. I want to have all the thinking that I did in one place. And then the other thing that I really want to make sure that I have out is my book. So I have my copy of Mockingjay here, not that you can really see it very well. I'm much farther ahead now than I was when I did this thinking. And that's kind of one thing that I want to make sure you understand. It doesn't matter. Like, if you want to talk about what's happening in your book right this second while you're reading it, fine. As long as you have something that you know you can make some inferences about, that you can write an intelligent response about, that's totally fine. What I am going to do, though, is go back to this thinking that I already did. I worked really hard to collect this thinking as I was reading. I think I can make some good inferences about some of this stuff. So this is the thinking I'm going to use because that's what I'm most comfortable with. So it just kind of is up to whatever your comfort level is. You don't have to use any of the stuff that you wrote down, but that's kind of the whole point of writing it down, is that you've got things that you've already kind of done some rough inferring about, so you don't have to make a lot of guesses when it comes right down to it. So I have my phone, I have my notes. I'm going to look back over what my thinking was earlier in the book when I was reading this, since I haven't read over these in a while. So this one says, Katniss doesn't like thinking of when BT electrocuted a group of kids in his first Hunger Games. It makes her uncomfortable to think of him as a killer, but she is also a killer. So that's the point where Katniss is just having kind of a normal conversation with BT, and they're not in the Hunger Games, but things that he says kind of bring her back to the fact that, oh yeah, he's had to kill a bunch of people before, and she kind of makes a comment to herself that he did it in self-defense, and so did she. Just kind of an uncomfortable situation for her to be in. I also made the note that Katniss has to be prepped by her old beauty team to film the Propos District 13 will air to all Panem. When she sees playback, she doesn't even recognize herself. Everything is so overdone and orchestrated, feels too fake. There's definitely some thinking that I have about that that I could use. Haymitch laughs at Katniss's attempt to be passionately angry while filming her first propo. He always does this with her, makes fun of her for her lack of appeal. I really think that these two, they happen so close together. I really feel like I could use both of these together to write a really good response, so I might think about doing that. And then this one you guys actually didn't see in the last video because I wrote it down after I was done. There was this part where Katniss was talking about how it didn't even seem like the people who used to live where she does now, I guess, in America, even though they don't call it that anymore, didn't seem to care about what was going to happen to future generations. So I wrote, Katniss disses her ancestors, saying they didn't care about what would happen to the people who came after them. Seems like Suzanne Collins is talking about us. So in this part, like, if I were going to write about this, I might be doing some thinking about author's purpose. I'd probably be doing some thinking about the genre. I could really get a good response out of that one as well. Yeah, it's interesting. They talk a little bit about democracy later on in the book, too. There are definitely some connections that I can make back to this, some good inferences that I can make. So as I'm looking through here, and truly and honestly, this is the first time I've kind of like re-looked at these. Sorry, I'm going to try focus a little bit more. There we go. As I'm looking back through these, I feel like all of this thinking is thinking that I could use to write a really great reading response. So, oh gosh, I don't know. I think I'm going to do this one. That she's prepped by her old beauty team, and then Haymitch kind of makes fun of her, because a lot has happened since then that I could probably also connect to this. So I could make references to several points in my book if I use these two thoughts and make some pretty good inferences. So I think I'm going to do that. Now, the first thing that you have to do when you are when you are doing your reading response is write a summary. And we have some things at school that will help you with a summary, but I'm going to just remind you guys of the kind of summarizing that we did last year. So, summary, sorry, I'm like writing over my computer right now, so this is not going to be super neat handwriting, is a good example is somebody wanted, but so then. Okay, this is the kind of format that we've used before for summarizing. So somebody is generally going to be the main character. Doesn't necessarily have to be, or it could be another important character. So when you talk about this character, like my somebody is Katniss, right? My somebody is Katniss, she's my main character. But I want to say more than that, than just Katniss. I want to say, like Katniss, who has agreed to be the Mockingjay and the face of the rebellion. I want to describe her a little bit more, because if you don't describe them a little bit more, people might not necessarily understand who you're talking about. So with all of these, I would expect you to write more than just like their name, more than just a word. Somebody wanted, let's see, in any work of fiction, your character is going to have some kind of desire or some kind of goal. So her goal right now, what she wants to be able to do right now is make, and what other people want her to be able to do, she wants to be able to make these propos successfully, so that when they send them out to the people of Panem, they really like resonate with people, that people listen to her and do the kinds of things that she's talking about that kind of like join into the rebellion. So what she wants is to make a successful propo to send out to the districts. And I just wrote the answer down there, but I did not write the answer here. So here I would write Katniss, who has agreed to be the Mockingjay, wants to make a successful propo to send out to the districts, but the but part is the conflict. Like, what gets in the way of her being successful? What gets in the way of her accomplishing this goal? So the thing getting in the way of her accomplishing this goal right now is she feels unlike herself, too much makeup, also acting does not come easily to her. She feels like she's forcing it. So what happens at the end of that chapter is that's when Haymitch speaks up. He laughs at her attempt to be passionately angry and basically says, well, that's one way to kill a rebellion. And then later on, he kind of like calls together a collection of people to, I guess, basically brainstorm about ways that Katniss can reach the districts. He like calls in this group of people and says, okay, tell me about one time that Katniss Everdeen really touched you. That's what he does, and he gets these great ideas. So I'm going to write that down. So Haymitch calls together a group of people to discuss times Katniss moved them emotionally. They all realize that unscripted moments are the best for her. Okay. So then, the then is we're thinking about, buddy, hey, shh, Max, quiet please. The then is for, okay, so we're in this situation. We know that Katniss wants to be able to successfully make this video to send out to the districts, but she doesn't feel like herself. She's stiff, she's jerky, she feels completely unnatural in front of the camera. So the solution to that problem is that Haymitch calls together this group of people to discuss times that Katniss moved them emotionally. And they all realize, they all come to the conclusion that it's unscripted. Anytime that she's unscripted, that she's truly acting of her own accord, that's when she's the best. That's when she's the most passionate. That's when she reaches the most people. But this part is for how did this situation get resolved then? Okay, we went through all this then, so how did they end up resolving this situation? I guess it's kind of Haymitch suggests letting Katniss go out into the districts. Somewhere that has been attacked. So she can mingle. It's like another word for kind of like visit the people and connect with them. And the whole time this happens, the director, Cressida is her name, the director is going to be having cameramen film her. So they think having her in this natural environment is going to make her just better, just more genuine, just more believable, because the way that it was working out, it was just too much. It was too fake. It wasn't her. So that's my summary. That's the whole summary. I would take all of this and rewrite it on another piece of paper. I definitely did not expect for this to kind of come out of that, but that's sort of the thing that happens when you do Somebody Wanted But So Then. This was not exactly what I expected to come out of my summary. I like it. I like the summary, but it definitely wasn't what I expected when I started thinking about these two things. So I'm going to move on to my inferring. Looking at this, thinking about this, I can make an inference that, Katniss I think the reason that people like her so much more when it's unscripted is because that is when she is completely and totally herself. Katniss is the kind of person, I've learned from reading these books, that has a lot of trouble concealing her emotions. She isn't close to a lot of people. She doesn't have a lot of close friends. But she still is a very emotional person. She is deeply moved by things. And there are a lot of times that we've seen that throughout these books. And they mention several of these during this part when Haymitch has that focus group together. They mentioned when she volunteered for her sister at the Reaping. That was the moment that you saw her for who she really was. When Rue died and she sang Rue off to her death and decorated her hair with flowers. That was a beautiful moment where she really touched people deeply. When she took care of Peeta, when she actually knocked him out with sleeping medicine during the Hunger Games so she could go to the cornucopia and get medicine for his leg, that was a touching moment for people. So an inference I can make is that Katniss she has trouble hiding who she really is. As much as she wants to stay hidden from the world, as much as she doesn't trust people, she still has a lot of trouble keeping these emotional parts of herself hidden. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and write this. I wish I had a better pen, but I don't. So, can't see. I'm just going to go ahead and write this from the text. I can infer that although Katniss thinks, can't spell, thinks, she is tough and independent and aloof, I would say is a good word. She kind of thinks of herself as this unemotional person. She actually has a lot of trouble hiding her emotions. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm gonna have to go back to a lot of different parts here. Let me see here. I'll just cite when Haymitch asks people to list times, Katniss moved them. Let's see. I'm trying to get back to that part in my book. And it's going to be tough to get back there because I have read a lot since then. When Haymitch asked people to list times Katniss moved them, they all name moments that Katniss acted completely based on her emotions. From the text, I can infer that although Katniss thinks she's tough and independent and aloof, she actually has a lot of trouble hiding her emotions. When Haymitch asks people to list times Katniss moved them, they all name moments that Katniss acted completely based on her emotions. Someone recalled, I'll go to this page. when she volunteered for Prim at the reaping. Another remembered how she sang to Rue as she died, and put flowers in her hair. Someone pointed out the time that she knocked PETA out with sleeping medicine. Can't remember what they called that stuff. The sleep. I can't remember. Someone pointed out the time that she knocked PETA out with sleeping medicine so she could run to the cornucopia. Hope I spelled that right. And get medicine for his infected leg. He would have died otherwise if she hadn't done that. So definitely a time that moved people. So I've cited evidence from the text, right? Like I've shown you all these times. They've actually shown us, the people who were in this focus group have shown us all these times that Katniss acted purely out of emotion. Trying to find, let's see, what page number was I on when I did all this? 156. Let's do it again. So now I need to, I guess I made the inference, I supported it with evidence, but I have more. I have more that I want to say about what I think this means about her, like what this shows, what understanding this shows me. All right. So I've got it. I found the page. Would anyone like to argue? Let's see. When she volunteered to take Prim's place at the reaping because I'm sure she thought she was going to die. Yep. When she sang the song while the little girl died. So I'm on page 139. This is 139 through 141. Cool. Found it. Make sure that you cite the evidence that you're using. Put the page numbers down so we know where you're getting this information. So what this helps me understand is a big problem for her in this book has been that President Snow knows exactly which buttons to push with her. So my conclusion that I'm going to come to, my understanding that I get from like all of this is that Katniss, since Katniss has such a hard time controlling her emotions, she has kind of like left herself open to President Snow. We know President Snow is this super evil person. He's a terrible guy. He hasn't killed her. He's had tons of opportunities to kill her, but instead he's just doing things to make her miserable. He put her back in the Hunger Games during Catching Fire. In Mockingjay, after Katniss and several other people were rescued from the arena, PETA wasn't, and the Capitol took PETA, and they are essentially now torturing him. They're holding him hostage, they're torturing him, they're making him go live on the air and tell people that they need to stop rebelling because too many people are going to get hurt, and they're hurting him, and it's really clear from his appearance on TV that they're hurting him. President Snow knows exactly what to do to Katniss to rile her up, to put her on edge, to drive her crazy. And the only thing that he's already blown up her district. That's another thing that he did. He blew up her district, but her family is safe. Gail is safe. So the only other card that he has to play is PETA. And he knows, because he has seen these things too. He has seen that even though she tries to act like this tough, aloof person, she's actually a pretty sensitive person, and she's not good at hiding it. Like, there are lots of times that she has shown the world, because they're filming the Hunger Games, so everybody has seen it. There are lots of times that she's shown the world that she's an emotional person, that she reacts emotionally and impulsively, and she cares very deeply for the people that she loves, that she will basically do anything to save them. So I have this, my inference, I have my evidence to back it up, but I'm going to go ahead and say, like, you need to add more. I'm going to say what all of this now helps me understand about Katniss and about President Snow. So, what all of this helps me understand is that President Snow has been paying attention to all of these moments as well. He has seen how emotionally and impulsively Katniss reacts when her loved ones are in danger. She will do anything to protect them, and not being able to drives her crazy. That is why President Snow has kidnapped PETA to use him against Katniss to weaken her. PETA is the only card Snow has left to play. I think that's pretty good. This didn't take me too long to write. I mean, I know it's kind of a longish video because I had to explain it as I went. But in all honesty, that summary went pretty quick. Now, I would rewrite this if I were actually going to turn it in as a reading response. I would rewrite this summary all as one paragraph. Pretty good long summary, about half of it. Then I make the inference, and then I try in my last paragraph to connect all that together. I had the summary, I made the inference, now I'm trying to connect everything together and show you that now that I've done the summary and I've made the inference, here's what I understand. This is a huge part of it. Don't leave this part out, okay? Got the inference, I've got the summary, I've got the inference, I've got the evidence, but all of it needs to come together so that you show me, now that I've done all this, here's what I understand. I will take a picture of this entire thing and put it on our blog so that you guys can see the entire thing. And I think that's it. I think you guys will be good to go. Good luck writing your reading responses, and I will see you soon.